Do you like the idea of getting into property development, but you've always wondered how you could build your property professional team? My name is Ritchie Clapson, and you're watching The Open Door Show. On today's show, I'm going to be talking about how you can build a property development team, a team of professionals that can help deliver your developments for you. Now, a lot of people talk about this. They talk about power teams. They talk about professional teams and how we can get them together. I actually don't like the word power teams. In fact, I did an interview recently with a gentleman from Crowd Property, Rupert Lowe. We talked about power teams, and he doesn't like that term either. And he said in some ways it intimidates people. Well, maybe professional team also intimidates people. So I want to break down some barriers of why that's not actually intimidating and why actually you're in charge, because you are. So let's have a little think about it. In terms of our team, who do we need, first of all, in our professional team if we want to be a property developer? Well, if we're thinking of being a property developer, a small-scale property developer, we're going to be in a position where we're looking at doing developments, maybe 18 months, 12 months, something like that timescale. And we're going to be putting together a professional team of people, which is going to probably include a project manager, an architect, a structural engineer, a cost consultant, maybe a mechanical and electrical engineer, maybe a landscape consultant, maybe a flood consultant, maybe a lighting consultant, a contractor, subcontractors. Blimey, the team goes on, doesn't it? And of course, you've got to assemble that team. And that team is a bunch of industry professionals with many, many years experience. And I guess that's why they intimidate you. I guess that's what people feel, is that if you're going out there and you're thinking, I'm going to talk to a structural engineer, and that structural engineer is soon going to work out that I don't know anything about property development. You don't need to. They're not expecting you to. You're not going to go to a structural engineer and there's going to be a test, is there? They're not suddenly going to test you and say, hey, okay, so you want to be a property developer, do you? Well, tell me about beams and columns and concrete. They're not. You're not going to go to a planning consultant and they're going to ask you how permitted development rights work. That's why you're going to them. I mean, have you ever taken your car in a car garage and gone to a place in the car garage and the car garage says to you, okay, you brought your car in to get your car repaired. What do you know about the engine? Well, you don't know anything, do you? That's why you go there. Now, thinking about it, think about when you go into that car garage. Think about when you go into perhaps buy a car. We've all done that at some point, haven't we? Who's buying and who is selling? I think that is so important to understand that and get that into your head, because just think about this, okay? You're going to go into a car showroom. You're going to go and buy yourself a new car. Okay, let's say we're going to go into a Mercedes garage, okay? We're going to go and buy ourselves a nice Mercedes, nice new Mercedes, and you walk into that car showroom. Do you walk in there and a car salesperson, they come up to you and she says to you, how bizarre would this be? Is she going to say to you, okay, so what are you here for? You say, I'm here to buy a car. And do you immediately then start saying, it's okay, I've got my driving license. Yeah, I've got that here. You can have a look at that. It is original. I bought the original copy and you can see I passed my test on there. I am qualified to drive an automatic car, so that's all good. And I've got all my own limbs. Yeah, these are my own limbs. They're all here, so that's all working. And if you like, I could do an eyesight test and I can read that number. You don't, do you? You don't start trying to read number plates and do all those things, because you don't need to justify to that person that actually you are there to buy your car. What happens? You go into that car showroom and they say to you, so what is it you're looking for? You say, well, actually, what I'm looking for is an estate car. I need an estate car. We go away on family holidays. Okay, no problem at all. So what's the budget you're looking at? When's your timescale? When do you want it? So you don't need to take in anything to prove. You don't need to take, obviously, your bank statements to prove you've got the money. In fact, they're probably going to lend you the money. The money's out there. So think about this in property development, the who's buying and who's selling. It's only scary because it's a new world for you. But the reality is, if we're going to go out there and we're going to walk into a structural engineer's office, that structural engineer is actually going to start selling to you. That structural engineer is looking for you. That structural engineer is looking for a new developer client. They're looking for clients. You are the client. Who pays their bills? Who pays their wages? Who pays their mortgage? Indirectly. Well, you do. You as a developer. So when you rock up Obviously, they don't want to waste time with you, but actually, they're going to start selling to you. So I can assure you, if you end up at a business networking event, a property networking event, and an architect turns up and you say, yeah, I'm a developer, what's going to happen? That structural engineer is immediately going to start saying, okay, yeah, what sort of things do you do? Now, that's where a lot of people fail. Am I right? If that question comes to you, you're going to start be thinking, oh, hang on a minute. Oh, and then you become subservient. You become subservient to that because, oh, I haven't done anything. You try and blag, you try and work your way through it, but you don't need to. Why don't you just say, oh, I haven't done anything yet. I'm brand new. I'm a brand new developer. I'm actually an IT consultant. I've been involved in, I had a motor trade business. You could have been in that, okay? I've transitioned into this and, we've got a fund together. We've got the funds together to go and do this, got a certain amount of private capital, commercial capital available, and I'm looking to do a number of projects in and around the Oxfordshire area, and the sort of projects we're looking to do is conversion of existing empty offices into residential. Well, that's great, isn't it? I mean, you told them what you want. What are they going to do? Well, they're going to start coming back to you. They're going to say, okay, well, that's great. What sort of things, or when are you going to get going? And you might say, well, I'm going to get going soon. And perhaps you fire a question back to them. Tell me what you do as a structural engineer. What sort of sectors do you work in? Do you work in those sort of things? Do you work in the Oxfordshire area? I'm assuming you do because you'll meet them at a networking do. And they might say, oh, no, actually, I'm just involved in hospitals, big hospital projects. Well, maybe they're not the right person. So maybe you've got to steer that away and say, well, okay, do you have a structural engineering colleague or anyone else you know that works on the conversion of old offices? That was difficult to say, wasn't it? Old offices into residential. Ah, yeah, my other department do that. We've got two departments, one that does the hospitals, one that does the smaller projects. You want to meet my friend John? I'd love to. Well, John's over there. Let me introduce you. And they're actually going to sell to you. And when you meet John, obviously you can say to John, well, what sort of projects do you do? Can you give me some examples? Can you show me? And of course, they're going to start doing that, aren't they? They are selling to you. So you mustn't be subservient. You are the client. Now, if we think about this, it's going to be scary. It's always going to be scary. But actually, if you go back to the car sales position and try and relate back to that, you're going to be exactly in the same place. And as I said, this apologies for no experience. What I've seen, and I've seen a lot of new developers do this, and even if I've done a bit of role play with new developers, they end up in a position where they start doing, I've done a bit of development. Almost blatantly lie. Well, you're going to get caught out because they're going to ask you where. They're going to ask you where you've done that development. You don't have to apologize. Be totally upfront. Be confident with it. Have a think about this scenario. What about if, let's think about perhaps Richard Branson. Okay, we all know Richard Branson. And to the best of my knowledge, he's not a property developer. But what if Richard wanted to be a property developer, or should I say Sir Richard? And Sir Richard came along and met up with a structural engineer at that same function in Oxford, and he said, I want to get into property development. I'm completely new. I know nothing about it, but I know I need a structural engineer. What's that structural engineer going to say? Well, a structural engineer is going to turn around and probably start selling himself. Oh, well, that'd be great, Sir Richard. We'd love to work with you, Sir Richard. Yeah, no problem if you're brand new to this. We can have you got an architect yet? I've got a friend of mine who's an architect. We can pull the team together. Let me guide and steer you. You don't need to worry about structural engineering. I can cover that. And why is that? Well, almost certainly, Richard Branson would not go in subservient. Richard Branson wouldn't go in and apologize. Why? Well, Richard Branson is a CEO. He's covered lots of different business sectors. So, he's got an airline business. He's got does he have a railway business, a cruise line business, a bridal business, a finance business? I mean, all sorts of things. And did he have experience when he went into those sectors of those sectors? Well, of course he didn't. But he went in with confidence because he goes in as a CEO. He goes in with business knowledge. That's what you're looking to do. So you're going to go in and command that respect. And he doesn't have to apologize. He's looking for that help. And ultimately, if you go in that way and with that confidence, that's what they're looking for. That's what these individuals are looking for to take you seriously. And they won't ask you those questions. If you go in subservient, slightly apologetic, cap in hand, shoulders down, well, you're actually then going to be intimidated by them. They'll ask you one question, you'll fall apart, they're not going to waste their time. Because these consultants are going to speculate a certain amount of work. They're going to speculate, and I say a certain amount of work, even just talking to you, getting involved with you, maybe going to see a couple of projects with you, they're going to be in a position where they speculate in time, and that is money. And so they don't want to waste time with people who are wasters. And of course, think about it, property development. Who doesn't want to get into property development? We're talking about earning six-figure sums. So there's a lot of people watching this think, yeah, I want to get into it. It's not for everyone. It's relatively simple, but it's equally quite hard work. So for some people, it's not for them. But there's a lot of people who like this idea. And of course, what you'd have to do as consultants, you've got to sift these people out. You've got to make sure you are working with serious people that ultimately are going to pay your bills. Now, has anyone ever asked Richard Branson, has he got enough money in the bank to pay him? You just assume. But actually, you can do the same. It's how you go and approach it. It's how you walk into that room. It's how anyone perceives you within that room. There's always this sort of principle and theory of how you dress, how you impress someone. You've got to dress above people. It's always one level above. That's a scenario out there. It's a theory. I think it works. You should always be above, one level above everyone else. So actually, if you go out and you go to a networking event, just don't turn up in a scruffy pair of t-shirts and jeans. Maybe once you've got lots of experience and people get to know you, maybe. But maybe put a shirt on, maybe a jacket. If you think everyone else is not wearing a jacket, perhaps pop a jacket on. You're one level above everyone else. So wherever you are, just think about that. Think about what's going to be there. And that just gives you perhaps a bit of confidence. When we dress, dress for success, you walk in, you feel better, don't you? So maybe do that. Don't dress several levels above. So don't walk in a pinstripe suit in an evening networking meeting, because you're probably going to stand out like a sore thumb and it looks like you're trying too hard. So you don't need to do that. But one level above is important. And they also talk about actually walking faster. Walk with confidence. It's often said you should walk 25% faster than you normally would to give confidence. So when you stride into that room, when you walk around that room, when you engage with other people, walk faster. Just walk faster, walk with purpose. Don't shuffle along and don't sort of hold back. And all this confidence thing is what's going to get you ahead, and people will take you seriously. And this is when they start selling to you, which is important. Now, when I talk about them coming back to you and selling to you, have a list of questions. Have a list of questions that you can write down. It's a really important tip. So when you're going to go out there, what would you want to know? You're going to work with an architect. What would you want to know about that architect? You're going to work in Oxfordshire. You're going to take old office buildings. You're going to turn them into residential. What do you want to know? Well, you want to know, first of all, are they in that location? You'd like to know, have they got the experience of those types of buildings? What else would you like to know? Would you like to know their availability? Would that be useful? How much work they've got on at the moment? Is it just them in the practice? Do they have colleagues? What if he's on holiday? If it's a one-man band, what if they're on holiday? How do you get any contact then? So if they start responding, say, no, there's 3 or 4 of us in the office, oh, that's great. Are they qualified? All these industry professionals, professional is a term which means they're professionally qualified, or perhaps should be. Are you professionally qualified? Are your colleagues professionally qualified? Can we have meetings in your office? Would that be useful? Can they actually show you examples of projects? Maybe not there and then, but I'd love to see some examples. Because actually not all architects are equal. Because you could be talking to an architect, as I talked about earlier, who's as a structural engineer, not got the right experience. And actually, sometimes they might just say they have. And you want to see examples. Because sometimes the communication, you're saying, I want to convert offices. Maybe you, as a small-scale developer, want to convert relatively small offices. And they're talking about offices, but they're talking about huge multi-story offices. And of course, if they show you, that's soon going to come out. But show me some examples. Show some interest. What else is it you'd like to ask them? Have they got insurance, professional indemnity insurance? Have they got any other teams they've worked with? Can they introduce you to other people? And if you think about it, if you have pre-prepared a list, 4 or 5, simple 4 or 5 questions that you can fire at any consultant, be it an architect, a project manager, a structural engineer, a cost consultant, maybe even a contractor, then they'll always be in that mode where they're going to be responding to you. Hey, great to meet you. What's your name? I'm so-and-so, so-and-so. I'm an architect. Great. Well, I'm a developer. We're looking for architects. Tell me a bit about your practice. Oh, well, bum, 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 I do this, this, and the other. Okay, do you know how many people you got in your practice? Bum, bum, bum. Are you qualified? Yeah, yeah. You know, the rest of your colleagues qualified? Have you got any availability? You know, have you got a meeting room we could use? Do you know? And then you'll have them. And do you know, that will take you probably 5 or 10 minutes. That's enough, isn't it? A property networking do. If you ask those questions, they're very unlikely to ask too much about you. And because you're going to respond honestly with confidence, that actually, no, I'm new to this game. Does that matter? Go back to the Mercedes garage. We're going to go in. We're a first-time driver. Maybe they might be a bit concerned about insurance if you're buying, you know, a sports one. But if you're actually just going to go and buy a little Mercedes hatchback, are they going to say when you walk in, "No, I'm a first-time driver, literally just passed my test"? Oh, have you got any money? Don't worry, are they? If you've got the money, you can buy their car. If you've got the money, and that's why I talk about preempting that. Yeah, no, we're new to this, but we've got to fund together to do that. I think about that. Have you got a fund together? Well, of course you're going to have a fund together because you can go out and raise up to 70% of the purchase and 100% of the development funding. We talk about that here on the Open Door Show quite a bit. And that funding is out there backed by commercial funders, institutional lenders that have that money available. Okay, you might not have it right now. You might not have it available right now. You might not even have a decision in principle. But maybe, and just maybe, and perhaps you should, I've already had a conversation with one of those funders out there. We've interviewed plenty on the Open Door Show. Go and contact one of them. Ask them if in principle they would lend to you, if in principle you could get a good team together, and if in principle you could get a good deal. Well, the answer is they're probably going to go yes. And genuinely, you can go to that architect, that structural engineer, whoever you meet at that networking meeting, and with confidence, because, well, you have asked them. And they have said yes, because they might say, "Who are you working with?" You say, "I'm working with so-and-so lending." Oh, great stuff. Yeah, I've heard of them. And you had some, yeah, I've spoken to them. In principle, they're happy to lend. You're not lying, are you? Because as soon as you lie, what happens? Catch you out, doesn't it? People, someone asks you a question. If you lie, you're sort of up here, aren't you? You're looking at the ceiling, or you're looking at the floor, or you're scratching your nose, what all those symbols are. But actually, I've had a conversation with so-and-so. They're going to lend to me. Decision in principle. They're very happy. And so that confidence thing is there. And as soon as you set the scene with that, they are selling to you. Now, ultimately, people are going to work with people. People want to work with people that they like. That's what it's about. At the end of the day, they're selling, you're buying. You don't like them, well, you're not going to work with them, are you? That's the ultimate position. And you're not desperate because there are plenty of architects. There are plenty of project managers. Of course, if you're out there, you're looking, and I get this all the time with my students. "Oh, I don't know any." Of course you don't know any. You're brand new. This is what it's about. And they're not out there like car showrooms, on the high street, showing themselves ready so you can just walk in the door. No, you've got to meet them eventually. You've got to put a bit more effort in. I said it's simple, but it's a bit harder. You've got to put a bit of effort in and go and make time to go and see them. But you can do that. They're out there, and you don't have to choose that first one. "Oh, you're not right for me. You just do hospitals. That's really not what I want. But look, it's great to meet you." Off you go. Go and talk to someone else and have that positioning, because at the end of the day, if you went into a Mercedes garage, you're not going to be intimidated, are you? If you don't want that car, if you don't like the way the seat feels, or you don't like the position of steering wheel, or just the style, you go off to BMW or wherever you're going to go, I don't know, Toyota or Audi or somewhere like that. You're going to go somewhere else, aren't you? You have choice. You're the purchaser, you're the buyer. And it's exactly the same way when you're looking at your professional power team. So always think that. Don't be scary. Do not be subservient. And I guess a thing which we often do, we talk too much, don't we? Now, I'm obviously talking too much here because I'm on the Open Door Show. That's what I've got to do. And if I didn't talk, well, you wouldn't hear anything. But less is more. A lot of confident people, a lot of very, very successful people, they don't say a lot. And this is my point about having these questions. So when we go in, you don't have to just chat. A lot of successful people just ask questions. "Tell me about your practice." That was quick, wasn't it? "Tell me about my practice." Well, the response to that is quite long. "How many people do you have working for you?" That's quite a longish response. "What are their qualifications? What sort of experience have they got? How many projects have you done? Can you show me some examples? Can you tell me about some projects you've done recently?" All of those can actually have fairly long responsive answers, which means you're just stood there listening, assessing. You're just answering questions. You're after information from them. And that's what a lot of confident, experienced people will do. They don't ask a lot. They sit quiet. Actually think about as well how you talk. What about pauses? What about pausing when you speak? Because if you pause when you speak, what does that do? Does that draw people in? If I just keep talking at the same speed all the way through, chat, and I'm talking about this and how you build a professional team and a power team and you want to get these people together, it's a bit too fast, isn't it? But if actually I was going out and say, oh, you're an architect. Really nice to meet you. I'm actually looking for an architect. Tell me a bit about your practice. And just slowing it down, now I've obviously exaggerated that there, but just pull people in. Yeah, I'm looking for an architect. Tell me a bit about your practice. People will hold, they won't jump in if you keep that short enough. So ultimately, this team is out there. You can go and find them. I don't like the word power team. I don't necessarily like the word professional team, perhaps because it could intimidate you. But it shouldn't. You need this team to be a developer. You want this team to be the CEO because these people are going to deliver the deal for you. They are the ones that's going to make the money. But be confident. Hold your head high. Dress to impress. Walk that little bit faster. Have a list of questions. Say a little bit less. And ultimately, do not be subservient. And go out there. Have a bit of fun. Start having a go. See if you can find someone that starts to sell to you. Because once that happens, your confidence again will go right up. Hopefully that makes sense. And hopefully there's a few things you can go out and practice at your next business or network meeting. Please like and subscribe, in which case you're never going to miss out on the next Open Door show. And hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye for now.